Ukrainian counterattacks pushed the Russians out of several key positions, endangering their whole operation to encircle Pokrovsk. As a result, the Russians were forced to completely abandon their attempts to take the town, started retreating, and changed their goal to achieve political victory without any strategic value instead. Euromaidan Press reports. After advancing to Pokrovsk, Russian forces set their sights on encircling the city from the west to sever its vital logistical lines and forcing Ukrainian defenders to abandon it under threat of encirclement. The Russians hoped to avoid the brutal urban battles that had previously drained their forces in Bakhmut and now at Toretsk. The idea was to isolate Pokrovsk without having to storm it directly and achieve at least a less costly victory. However, this plan soon fell apart. Ukrainian forces first managed to halt the Russian advance westward and then began a series of aggressive counterattacks to reclaim key positions. Euromaidan Press says Ukrainian tactics were highly mobile and adaptive, using thunder runs with swift, small unit assaults designed to shock and disorient entrenched Russian forces. One of the major blows was dealt at Kotlin, where Ukrainians executed rapid attacks to disrupt the Russian presence in the village and its surrounding industrial zone. They successfully isolated Russian troops holding these areas, forcing them to abandon positions under relentless Ukrainian drone strikes and artillery harassment. The breakthrough at Kotlin allowed Ukrainian forces to expand their operations under the new command of General Major Mikhailo Drapati, who had previously orchestrated successes during the Kharkiv and Kherson counteroffensives. The Ukrainians shifted focus to crippling Russian logistics by systematically disrupting supply lines, and as dozens of roads in this sector quickly became littered with destroyed vehicles and manpower, Ukrainians made it nearly impossible for Russian units to receive reinforcements, food, or even water, as Russian troops resorted to using horses and donkeys to deliver basic supplies. Euromaidan Press says, exploiting this and their superiority in drone warfare, Ukraine pushed forward and retook critical positions around Uspenivka, Udachne, Pishchane, Shevchenko, Dachensk, and Lysivka, driving Russian forces back from the outskirts of Pokrovsk. The result of these Ukrainian counterattacks has been decisive, as Russian activity on the western flank has notably decreased. Facing mounting casualties and dwindling reserves, Russia has now shifted its focus southward. Overall, the Russian attempt to encircle Pokrovsk has collapsed under the weight of effective Ukrainian counterattacks and relentless pressure. Forced to abandon their grandiose plans, Russian forces now chase much less ambitious objectives, capturing largely empty fields without any strategic value.
Russian special services have received instructions to organize terrorist attacks in several Russian oblasts during the May 9th celebrations aimed at blaming Ukraine and mobilizing the population for war. Inform Napalm International Intelligence Community reported this, citing information obtained from intelligence agencies. Early reports indicate that high-level instructions were given within Russian security agencies to organize terrorist attacks in several Russian oblasts. Cities such as Khabarovsk and Ulan-Ude are being considered. Meanwhile, all forces are being involved in securing the parade in Moscow to ensure it takes place without incident, Inform Napalm reported. The goal is to accuse Ukraine of indiscriminate attacks on civilian crowds, to disrupt U.S. peace initiatives, and to use these pretexts to mobilize additional resources from Russian regions. At the same time, at first they allegedly considered plans for such actions in Moscow itself, but later decided that the situation could get out of control, so they want to try in the regions, away from the federal center, the statement said. Recall, Russia's President Vladimir Putin has declared a 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine on 8 to 10 May to mark World War II Victory Day, as U.S. President Donald Trump's administration decides whether a deal to end the war is within reach. The Kremlin said that the truce will start on May 8 and last through to the end of May 10, adding that Putin ordered the full cessation of hostilities on humanitarian grounds to mark the May 9 holiday celebrating the defeat of Nazi Germany. There was no immediate reaction from Ukraine, which has previously agreed to Trump's proposal of a full 30-day ceasefire. Russia believes that the Ukrainian side should follow this example, the Kremlin said in a statement.
Ukrainian military expert Ivan Stupac commented on the liquidation of Russian General Yaroslav Moskalik. As soon as the explosion happened with General Moskalik, I personally contacted various of our agencies and asked, "Is it you? Can I congratulate you?" I heard back, "No, it's not us." Then I called another agency and again the same, "No, it's not us either." I was really surprised because usually they say right away, "Yes, it's us. See, we can act." But this time 2 agencies denied involvement, Stupac said on the Espresso TV channel. According to the military expert, on April the 29th, the president of Ukraine reported that he had met with the head of the Foreign Intelligence Service who briefed him on the liquidation. So I conclude that the Foreign Intelligence Service, using football terminology, has opened the scoring in eliminated Russian war criminals within the Russian Federation, Stupac emphasized. The military expert also added that the current head of the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine is a person who previously worked in the main intelligence directorate. I think he recruited the best employees with experience in similar eliminations. Pay attention to the style. It looks very similar to the way General Kirillov was removed. There was a scooter in that case. Here, it's a car. But in both cases, webcams were used for surveillance and remote detonation. Stupac remarked, "Currently, the Russian community is mourning the loss of General Moskalik. They say he was a smart man, able to coordinate complex military operations across the entire theater of war. His death is a truly painful loss for the enemy. I want to believe that they no longer have people of this caliber, as he was responsible for planning military operations," Stupac concluded. Recall on April the 25th in the town of Balashikha in the Moscow region of Russia, a car exploded, resulting in the death of General Yaroslav Moskalik, a high-ranking officer in the Russian Ministry of Defense. On the evening of April the 28th, President Volodymyr Zelensky discussed the results of reports from the heads of the Foreign Intelligence Service and the Security Service of Ukraine. The president was informed about the elimination of high-ranking commanders of the Russian armed forces. General Lieutenant Yaroslav Moskalik, who died last week due to a car explosion in Balashikha, was involved in preparing documents related to the Ukrainian conflict for Russian President Vladimir Putin and Defense Minister Andrei Belousov.